Today on the Game Marks podcast, we play Bishoujo wrestler Retsuden, Blizzard Yuki Ranryuu. Damn it, George. For the Super Famicom, will we play it forever? Woo! Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
All of this plus gaming news and GMP64. Plug in and put on those nostalgia goggles because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now.
And now, the Game Marks.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, presented by the Major Pod Network. I am the man of 1,001 nicknames this week, being known as Unfeasterized George Feast.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and today we are playing Bishoujo wrestler Retsuden Blizzard Yuki Ranryuu. Thank you, George.
I'm so glad that this is your week to do this part of the intro and that I don't have to say this. But as always, guys, we love to hear from you, so please leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, and make sure to subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen, and join the conversation on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod, and on our official Discord server at GameMarksPod.com/Discord. Johnny boy, we got a mouthful of a game this week, man. Yeah.
But last week we played WWE WrestleFest, not WWF WrestleFest. We played the WWE version that came out on the iOS to kind of get us a little loosey, to get us a little more excited for Retromania Wrestling. We had Ian Riccaboni join us for an exclusive interview. One of our, I think, highest rated interviews, I'll say. Everyone seemed to enjoy this so much. Really a peek behind the curtain, behind like his life, Ring of Honor, Retromania Wrestling, and all of the above.
Well, I mean, Ian is such a great person to have on our podcast. One, because he's literally the nicest human being I've ever met. But two, he touches so many different spots for wrestling fans. Yes, ring announcer, a Ring of Honor announcer, the voice of Retromania. He's a wrestling fan at heart. He's, if you are a fan of the Major Pod Network as a whole, he's in the group. He's active. Like, he just checks so many boxes. So I understand. And obviously just his persona and his personality meshed so well with how you and I do things. He said that, and I'm incredibly humbled to know that he listens to us. It was a shock. I didn't expect to hear that at all. But, he's such a great guy that it was, it
was natural.
It's easy to, it was just such an easy flow of conversation.
So, WWE WrestleFest, we both, obviously, future endeavored it. I think, honestly, most people did have good memories of this game because I think maybe people were younger. They didn't really play the old WrestleFest, and this came out on the iPhone, the iPad, the iPod Touch, like we played it on, and it was kind of like exciting to see this big roster, old stars, new stars, and you got this cool little gameplay like literally at your fingertips. But
that's like what we said. It's what we talk about all the time. When you have those games that you played when you were a kid, you have those that checks those nostalgia boxes, and that's what keeps those fun memories in your head. But when you go back and you revisit those games, maybe it's not as polished as you thought.
That's right, but this all led to Friday, which was the release of Retromania Wrestling, probably one of the most anticipated wrestling games probably in history, because it was such a large gap between the first one and the official sequel. We were able to get on to Twitch with the Major Pod Network with Matt Cardona and Smart Mark Sterling on Wednesday before it came out. We were able to kind of highlight and show...
And we kicked their ass.
We kicked their ass. We were able to show like what this game had to offer before the release of it, which I thought was really cool, and it did not disappoint when it was actually released. This game is awesome. This game rips.
This game, I was having a conversation with my cousin just about where wrestling games are now, and my cousin is the person that I played No Mercy with, and all those games back when we were kids. So wanted to kind of see where he thought, and this conversation that we had, I'll give the short version of it, was just games in the last couple of years for wrestling have not, they've been good, they haven't been great. Mm-hmm. Retromania checks that box where you're like, wow, this really hits on all of the marks. Like, it hits everything. It's graphically, it's one of the prettiest games I've ever seen.
Agreed.
If you've played any of the arcade games, like the Ninja Turtles arcade game, if you played WrestleFest, like, it is true to form. Like, it's great. The soundtrack and just the audio as a whole,
it's not annoying.
it's oh my god, those arcade style sounds, and the music has the tendency to get so repetitive and like almost be like ear piercing. This is nice. Like, it sets the tone. Everything about this game is great. And listen, we give honest, sometimes brutally honest opinions of games. So you know that if we're here 80 plus episodes in and we're saying that this game is good, it is. It's good. Like, go in, play it. It has a challenge where you have to learn how the game works.
Oh yeah, super hard.
And I've seen some people complain about that, but a challenge in the game means that you're going to have to go back and work at it.
Exactly.
And perfect it. Like, an easy game, you play it, you master it, and then you're like, all right, whatever, I'm done with it. And you never pick it up. This is the kind of game that you go back and you're like, shit, I couldn't beat Nick Aldis in the 10 pounds of gold. And I want to do that. And, you know, I tried to win the Retro Rumble, and I got so close and I couldn't do it.
Oh,
you go back,
that was
and
my
you
hardest
get
thing.
better. It's so cool. And there's a story. Like, this game just hits all the boxes, and I cannot wait. And we have a rule here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've ever actually discussed the rule.
People were asking this when I was streaming it Friday, so this is good that we're clarifying.
So the official rule that John and I have come up with is that when a game gets released, we like to give it, we'll talk about it, but we won't do an official episode on it until the game has been out for a year. Now, the reason that we do that is because, one, some games launch with bugs. The other thing is, games have DLC that comes out, 6 months to a year later. So we want to try to get as much of the information and have a full-bodied experience for that game and, really give it a shot before we give it the official review. Obviously, as patches roll out, as things get updated, as content is released for Retromania, we will absolutely be covering it, and you'll be hearing it in this section, like in the beginning part of the episode.
But not only that, we can't wear nostalgia goggles if a game's fresh, Like, we can't say, play it forever or future endeavor if a game just came out. We're going to have to
That's true.
Give it a while to see, like... Our big thing is, are you wearing nostalgia goggles, or does this game actually hold up today? We can't say if it holds up today if it just came out. So we need that at least year grace period for it to either get old or like still stay like really good.
Yeah, we want to let a game kind of live past the hype. Like, obviously now the game just came out. It is hot and new in everyone's minds. Everyone is talking about this game, and rightfully so. They should be. But we like to give it, does the game stand the test of time? Is this a game that, a year, 2, 5 years, does this have the capability and the longevity to be something that can go down as, in the likes of, Here Comes the Pain or No Mercy or Revenge? Like, I have my thoughts about that, and I'm sure John does too. I'm sure you listening do too, but we want to give it a fair shot. So that's why we're not going to be covering it immediately.
Agreed. But George, Wednesday night when we stream this with Matt Cardona, as we call him, Bosky, because, he's our higher up here at the Major Pod Network, there was an announcement that at FWF Live, the Game Marks podcast, that's me and that's you, will be competing in a professional wrestling matchup against Off the Hop Ropes Nick Stapp and Top Shelf Troy Nelson. George, have you been doing your burpees? Have you been doing your neck bridges? Are you ready for this? Are you working on that burning hammer? What's the deal here? Are you good to go?
Oh yeah, I mean, you've definitely taught me how to do some things over some weird wrestling Zoom calls.
We don't talk about those.
I've got some gym mats set up in my basement, so you taught me how to brace for impact in terms of when Nick Stapp's gonna try to kick my head off. I gotta be honest with you though, in terms of this match, Nick's really the only one that I'm worried about.
You're not worried about Troy at all? Weird.
I don't know.
He's just going to try to sell you like old Game Boy games while we're wrestling.
Yeah, he's going to try to mark up the match itself, which I don't know. Everyone's getting a Falcon Arrow. Everyone's getting a Burning Hammer. Everyone's going to get the hotline, for those of you who've been watching GMP 64.
We'll see about all of that, but that is April 8th. That's a Thursday night. We're kicking off WrestleMania weekend with FWF Live. Be sure to order that. George, Streamer Spotlight. It is a new month. It is officially March. We have someone new that we want to highlight, and that is our good friend, our listener, Brett Va. That's BRETTVAA. Give him a follow today.
Oh, Brett is unbelievable content. The good thing about Brett, and the reason that I like to watch him when he goes live, is that he is the best kind of variety streamer. So he's played everything from Sekiro to Vermintide to Minecraft to those wrestling like text sims. Like he's done it all, and he plays it all, and it's great to have a streamer that gives you that wide variety, because it's literally something for everybody. So absolutely be sure to go and check out twitch.tv/BrettVa.
And speaking of Twitch, once we hit 200 followers, we will release the Bret Hart retrospect episode. We are so excited.
Close.
Guys, we are at 179. We are so close. Follow us on Twitch if you haven't, and we will bring to you the history of Bret Hart in all of his video game glory. Not only as a podcast, but we're also going to do a video version. I'm going to work overtime here, and I'm going to make this the prettiest video you've ever seen.
Ooh, now, wait. Earlier in the episode, we talked about last week's episode when we played WrestleFest and we had Ian Riccaboni. But in addition to that, we have the Ian Riccaboni Micro Brawler giveaway. All you have to do is subscribe to us on YouTube and show us proof using the hashtag RetroGMP.
Now, that's been going for a week now. I'm going to let it go maybe another week or two. And, one lucky person's going to win that Ian Riccaboni Micro Brawler. But, George, GMP 64, I am reeling. Last Thursday, we had the go-home show for King of the Ring. Last night, if you're listening to this on Monday, was King of the Ring. I'm not going to spoil anything, guys. It's on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. It didn't go the full way I wanted it to go, but I am happy with some of the results anyway. I think it was a great show. We'll touch more on it, I think, next week when it's not as fresh and we want people to actually, give us their thoughts on it.
Now, not to sound too much like our boss, Matt Cardona, but to steal a line from them is that, in FWF, they say there are no winners and losers. The only winners are the fans. And I'm on both sides of that, because one, you and I put this show together, but two, when it premieres Thursdays at 7 on our YouTube channel, you and I are both there watching it the entire time. Yep. So we get to be on both sides of this. We get to put it together, and then we get to watch it as a fan. And I gotta say, man, not to toot our own horn, but this is, aside from the podcast, I think this is like the coolest thing that we've done.
Awesome.
There's just something unique about it, and it feels interesting. It feels different. And also for everyone who loves FWF and just needs something to fill that void while they're figuring out season 2, I think if you haven't already, GMP 64 is the perfect avenue for you to fill that void. One, because they're short, digestible episodes. Each episode is maybe between like a half hour, 45 minutes. The go home episode was a little bit longer than that, but that's because it's the go home episode for a paper. You got to get everything in there. But it's also in video format. So everyone who listened to FWF and wanted that video format, there's no figure photography here, but you get to watch the matches as they unfold. And it's me and Johnny playing No Mercy.
That's the thing I want to clarify on, because some people actually did ask, because you could see that we're clearly not playing while our cameras are in the screen. We actually do play these games against each other, and then we go back and we record commentary over them, because we feel like if we're playing, it's just going to be like, our mouths hanging open like while we're playing, because we're just trying to beat each other that badly. Especially I want to beat George and everything. So So we are
we
actually
wanted
playing.
to do something to separate that from
Yeah.
how Clash at the Feast works. Because if you've watched Clash at the Feast, when John and I really get into it, a lot of the times we're just sitting there, like John said, mouths hanging out open, just really in the zone. So we wanted to make it where it's more like a presentation, like a show.
That's right. Now, this opening segment went a little long, but we had a lot to cover. But George, what do you say we head into some gaming news?
I'm ready. Let's go. Are you looking to get a better grip on life? How about your video games? Well, VGF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers and consoles. Check out their products at VGFgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grip, better style.
343 Industries has recently gone on record with various developers at the company talking about the game's campaign and what it will have in store. That's right, we're talking about the brand new Halo that's in development. Detailed on the Halo website, the focus on this new blog was largely to explain the world of Halo Infinite that players will experience in its single-player portion. The company's two main goals were said to be simplicity and legacy, wanting the players to feel like they're experiencing a game that they remember fondly like Halo, Combat Evolved, but with modernized graphics. Now, the latest edition of AEW Games 2.0 show premiered on YouTube last Thursday, hosted by Kenny Omega and Brendan Cutler. The stream cut to Cody Rhodes at the DDP Yoga Studio in Atlanta, where Yuke's developers and wrestlers were working on capturing in-game audio for the AEW's first console game. Rhodes mentioned thousands of unique sounds will be added in, and wrestlers were shown recreating everything from front bumps to kendo stick shots to table spots. The stream then cut back to Omega, who said they still don't have a release date ironed out yet, but thankfully haven't run into any major setbacks. He then joked with Cutler about not wanting a Cyberpunk 2077 situation. And that's all the gaming news we have this week. Check back next week. George.
Man, oh man.
AEW Games, they're going. They are up and they are running. The sound is going to be awesome. Those kendo stick shots are going to sound great. I like that they're using, they're doing the real stuff here to get those sounds.
So, okay. I'm going to say something, and then compliment sandwich here. Double-edged sword kind of situation here. So, AEW has set standards very high for what this game is going to be. You know, unique sounds, making note of the fact that they want to take their time and make sure that the game is produced well and that there's not a cyberpunk situation or we'll even say a 2K20 situation. So that being said, Double or Nothing released, and there's a mixed review here in regards to this game, and we are a gaming podcast, so we have to cover all the games. So I wanted to take some time and just kind of hash this out with you and just kind of talk about this a little bit. We've talked about games being reskinned and repackaged to be used somewhere else, and that's a very common practice in video games. But this Double or Nothing game just not branded enough, not enough wrestling feeling in it. I just, there's something missing here.
So the load screen, you do have Sting and Brandy, and then the little icon is Orange Cassidy and Sting. But when you're actually in the game, it's just a casino game. There's no branding of AEW anywhere. Someone actually on Twitter compared it to another game. It's literally just a reskin of a game that's already been developed. So, in my opinion, do we need this game? No, we don't. I just think this is AEW's way of getting a game out. If you search AEW wrestling, you're going to have AEW Double or Nothing Casino pop up in the store, I don't know. I don't know if there's a point to it other than to just say, we have a game. The game is out. AEW now has a game. But I will say this. They only kind of touch on this game. It's not the main priority. They're still really pushing that console game that's coming out whenever it comes out. And Elite General Manager is coming out, which they've been showing a lot of videos, and I think the game looks awesome. Aubrey Edwards is working on it. They put a lot into it, and I think that game's going to be a lot of fun. I think this game is just to say, hey, we're here. Here's something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. And you know, we have the R&R section for this game, so I figured we would touch briefly on what the reviews are for this game so far. And, you know, on the App Store on Apple, it's got 4 out of 5 stars.
Well,
but, you know,
it's a good casino game. It's just not a wrestling game.
But the lower star reviews definitely mention the fact that there's not enough branding. There's not enough that makes it an AEW game. Look, I understand. Game development is a hard task. And if you have an IP that you can very much just like, you know, buy the rights to and slap your own logo and your splash screen on it and make it your own game, I'm all for it. But like, you can do a little more branding. Like, you know, on the website, they show the casino table and it's got like the AEW logo on it. You know, there's things that make it look like it's a more AEW branded game. And this just, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I still prefer Governor of Poker or whatever it is. Governor. Regardless, George, what do you say we head on over to our favorite section, the question of the week?
Ooh, yeah. Game Marks, huh? We are here to tell you that the Game Marks podcast is on Pro Wrestling Tees and T Public, huh? But the cream will always rise to the top. Now, there are 2 ways to shop. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod or TeePublic.com/user/GameMarksPod, because you know the Game Marks podcast is the cream of the crop, So head on over today and bow down to the kingdom of the madness. Your mustache is crooked, Marks.
We have 2 websites for you now, guys. We have ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod, but then there's also GameMarksPod.com/shop. We have 2 places for you guys to get a plethora of GMP merch. And listen, there's new and exciting stuff that's coming out all the time. Recently, we have now ventured into the sticker game, and now we got car decals, John.
Yeah, check it out. I got that GMP man face right on the back of my Ram. I love it.
That was a sentence I could go without ever hearing you say
again.
It's
just going to get worse from here once we get into this game. So,
yeah, setting the bar pretty high. So the question of the week is a segment where we like to ask you guys to give us some questions, and then we answer the questions, and then if we pick your question, you get a GMP prize pack. Last week, F.A. Blakemore asked, what non-wrestling characters would you make in a wrestling game? He said that he always made Bruce Lee. We had some responses in addition to that great question. Jardid W. said they would always make Captain Jack Sparrow and make him a bit of a clumsy high flyer.
Well, Paul Burchill action? I get it.
Brian Harris at Mufasa122590 said that he used to make his dad and had green and brown gear for the colors, and he loved Biscuits and Gravy, so as the theme song, he had the Jesse and Festus Biscuits and Gravy theme.
All right, and now this week's question actually is also from Mufasa122590, and that is, does someone leaving a company before a game is released and that person in the game make you want to use the person more or less? For instance, Bret Hart being in WCW but still featured on Warzone, or Jericho being in Mayhem but being with the WWE affect the way you use that person? So, for me, does it make me want to use them more or less? Probably not. I think it's actually cooler because, like, some of the games you could actually go in and customize them and maybe update their gear. I would say, like, you could do that now, per se. Like, say you want to go into, like, 2K19, take Jericho and make him modern-day Jericho. Does it make me play them more or less? I would say no, but there was one SmackDown vs. Raw where maybe it was Christian. He just came back from TNA, and I had done the story creator, and I made him like the leader of Team TNA, and I downloaded like AJ, Abyss, like the whole like TNA roster, and I made like this whole invasion storyline with it, and it was cool that he was like all his stuff was already there.
All right, yeah, okay, I could see that working. I'm trying to think, like, for me, I guess it depends on the person, really. Like, you know, for some reason, the first one that came to mind was Bret Hart being in Revenge, and I know that that's during his run in WCW, but for me, in my head, and probably for a lot of people's head, Bret Hart is a WWF WWE guy. Like that's like Bret Hart's not going to be remembered for his time in WCW.
Nope.
So I guess to me, that was the thing where I was just like, I wanted to make Bret all of the champions because I liked Bret Hart so much in WWF, where like I just wanted him to like have that same kind of success, and and so like I guess so for that kind of experience in that regard, yeah, I did want to play as Bret Hart more because he was in a WCW game, and you know, you get to recreate those matches. Like you can do Hogan and Bret, you can do Goldberg and Bret, like you can you know, those guys that Bret was either working with or had worked with in the past. Like there's a lot of crossover in that Revenge game. So I guess you know, that's a yes from me on that question.
All right, cool. Now, Brian Harris, message us on social media to claim your prize.
That's a good question. I like that one.
But, as usual, now we turn this question around to you, the fans. Does someone leaving a company before a game is released make you want to play as that person more or less? But, George, are you ready?
Oh, boy.
Are you ready to take this plunge? Are you ready for this deep dive?
I'm not, but cautiously approaching the end of the diving board. Let's jump in.
Ready for you to say this game title. Let's go.
Are you sick of drinking the same old boring coffee with the same old boring flavors? Well, Marks, it's time for you to check out Bones Coffee Company. Bones Coffee isn't just a drink that wakes you up in the morning. It's a full flavor experience. Small batch roasts that are made to order so that every order is guaranteed to be fresh. Unbelievable, all-natural flavors in every single bag. Some of our favorites are blueberry, paradise pie, and chocolate raspberry. But if you're not into the flavored coffees, they've got their single origin series featuring coffee beans from the greatest coffee-growing regions in the world. Visit GameMarksPod.com/coffee to place your order and try the world's freshest small batch coffee. All right, John, Bones Coffee.
Sipping it right now. Some holy cannoli.
Oh, man. It checks all the boxes, right? It's so good. It's, you know, it's very hard to capture that cannoli cream flavor. And they nailed it.
But, you know, for us two Italians, we like the cannoli flavor. Hey, you know? Hey, gabagool.
Hey, gabagool. Oh, God, that better not become a thing. All right, John. How many times am I going to screw up this name?
Let's hear it. I'm sick of saying it.
Bishoujo wrestler Retsuden Blizzard Yuki Rannyuu.
All right, you did it.
Released March 29th, 1996 for the Super Famicom. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, we've talked about it before. That is the Japanese version of the Super Nintendo. Developed by KSS, published by KSS. And I'm just going to get the elephant addressed. We're just gonna totally get this out there in the open right now. This game is very different than what I was expecting. You see the screenshots, you watch some videos of this game, you look at it and you're like, okay, it's just gonna be a wrestling game with some manga anime looking girls. It's gonna be like Cutie Suzuki ×2. And, you know, that's my mindset going into it. And I was ready for John to make it what it is.
I'm still going to make it what it is.
Okay. That's your cement warning for the rest of the episode, guys.
Warning.
But this game is more of a sim. It's more like almost, I'm trying to think of what
I'll say it right now. You don't need your hands to play it.
You do, but you don't. So like you have to like power up your, you can level up skills, you can, train your character to be better, but you don't actually play the matches. So if you want like that wrestling trainer sim, then that's what this is.
Now, let's set the stage here a little. Bishoujo Wrestler Retsuden. Blizzard Yuki Ranryuu. That translates pretty much to beautiful girl wrestling. And it's also based on the manga for Blizzard Yuki, which is based off of the All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling Joshi wrestler, Tatako Inyo. Tatako Inyo. You guys know I'm great at saying these Japanese games.
It's Takako Ino.
All right, yeah, that. And this is in the Wrestler Angels universe, which we have played in the past, and it features many of the same characters and storylines from Wrestling Angels V1. Now, the first one, which we played, was Super Wrestle Angels in our archives. It's more of a card game.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting this to be.
Right.
Like, doing research, you see that it's going to be in the same world and draws, I guess, inspiration is a part of that same Wrestle Angels universe. So I was like, oh, it's going to be another card game. We actually had a pretty good time playing that last time, and the graphics look a little bit better this time around. So like, cool, let's go. I'm ready for this one.
Yeah, in a way, it is kind of the same because it's not just a regular, straightforward wrestling game, and it is more of like, I guess, like a strategy type sim? I don't know, but I could see how it's in the same universe. It is a little less creepy. When you first open up the game, you get the little FMV, the little title screen. It makes George skin crawl, rightfully so, and the game's really not like that. It's not as creepy as we're making it to be. It actually was just kind of like, here's a game.
Like, I actually would go to say that Cutie Suzuki is worse than this
100%.
game.
There's like the chains and stuff.
Like this game presents itself as this creepy, like borderline, like dirty Japanese game, and then like you play the game itself and you're like, wait, actually,
it's not that bad.
It's not. It doesn't look it like aesthetic. Like the game. It's like, and we're not talking about like the gameplay. We're talking about like the aesthetics of like how the wrestlers are presented. Like the title screen makes it seem like it's going to be like a super creepy, like every girl's in like a G-string bikini, and it's not that.
Now, if you go on YouTube, if you watch some playthroughs, the comments also make it seem like that's what this game is, but that's just creepy people commenting on a YouTube.
That's also very true. But I think the thing for me that is the strangest, aside from the gameplay, and that being said, gameplay aside, the only thing that is in English in this entire game is the title screen. Like, we started up this game and I was like, oh, the title screen's in English. This is going to be a breeze. Like, we're going to know exactly what we have to do and what we have to click. Like that.
Wrong.
I was so happy when we started up this game because on that title screen it says Champion Road, Exhibition, Open League, Open Tournament, World Circuit, and like System or Options. But like, I was like, okay, we're good here. This is a Japanese game that has an English dub or like an English version. This is gonna be great. And then you pick your thing, whatever game mode you want to play.
Yes, George.
And then you pick your game mode. And then on the next screen, it's not in English anymore.
And we usually do the Google Translate. That didn't really work too well because of just the way that, it's pixely. It's the way it's formatted. But we do know that there is a Champion Road and a World Circuit mode, which allows players to raise and train their chosen wrestler, or you can make a team. And it includes learning new moves and building parameters for both offense and defense. So that's where the whole gameplay kind of gets its background from. That's what you want to do. You want to kind of make your wrestler like stronger, and then once you head into the match, that's where you start tapping the buttons, and we don't really know what else you do here.
Yeah, so I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. The core of this game is having a schedule, like a training schedule and a match schedule for your wrestler. And the game itself is automated where In the sense that you're not taking control of the wrestler, but that doesn't mean that you as the player don't have a role. Like,
right.
You have to, you tap button, you use the buttons to issue commands in terms of like, you should go. Okay. I'm making this way more long-winded than it has to be.
You?
If you've ever watched UFC, if you've ever watched MMA,
never heard of it.
You know how you have the coaches on the outside and they're like, watch the jab, throw this punch.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
you. That is your role in this game. You are the coach on the outside of the ring, yelling and telling your wrestler, go for this move, try to go for this move, throw a super kick, try to hit your suplex. Like, that is what your role is in this game.
Okay, I agree. Yeah, that's a good that's a good comparison. Like Super Wrestle Angels, there was a giant like world in that game where you would go from promotion to promotion, try to build up your stars, build up your wrestlers. This is kind of similar where the World Circuit is the same as Championship Road, except the players manage a team of 5 wrestlers, and there's no way to recover HP or make them happy while training before each battle. So it's kind of more, cut and dry. You're going into a wrestling match. Here's your training. But I think that was the biggest thing about Super Wrestle Angels. There was that giant world, that giant story mode that I don't know how long that would take to beat, but seemed like a lot because it's like a giant EFED almost. This game has a little bit of like I won't say dumbed down, but like a smaller version of that inside of it.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I 100% agree with that. Like, that's a very good description of what it is. Like, it's, I guess watered down is the right way to put it. Like, it's just,
that was hours of gameplay. Like, you could sit there and play that league for hours. You could save it. You could go back. You could keep playing that league. This is only 13 rounds, and each only feature 3 matches. But this roster is ginormous. This is a huge roster. Now, just like Super Wrestle Angels, I'll compare again. They each had kind of like a description of who they were, like a jack of all trades, master of none. But it was very repetitive. I took them out. This is a large roster. A lot of them said boobs of steel, which I know would make you cringe out of your pants. So I took it all out. I'll say we stripped it down. And do we want to just read this roster as it is?
I feel like you made that description way worse than it needed to be by picking the words that you did.
That's why I'm here. That's my role here.
I'm ready to do this roster, but before we do that, let's hear a little word from our sponsors. And we're back. All right, Johnny.
You're gonna make me do this one, aren't you?
I mean, I feel like it's tradition. The Japanese games, you got to do it.
All right. So, well, first of all, I want to preface this by saying, in the actual game, we have no idea who we're choosing because it is in Japanese. So, to say what each of these members of the roster, each character, each wrestler looks like, we have no idea. So,
I know who Judy looks like because when we played one of the matches so they say that you can play the game. You don't really have to have both hands. That's a comment that Johnny liked to make last time. But the game is hard to play when you're holding up your phone to be the Google Translate and also play the game. But in one of the matches that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see if I could do it. I happened to pick Judy. So I know that someone's name is Judy.
And we know that the main character... Well, all right, we'll get to this. All right, so we have Mighty Yukiko, Haruka Yamada, Chelsea Hada, Kayo Ozawa, Blizzard Yuki. That one actually does show up in the character select. You do see the name Yuki. Toshimi Minami, Thunder Ryoko, Beautiful Ichigaya, Bomber Kashima, Blade Yuhara, Masato Akumara, Yumi Sayaji.
It's my favorite thing.
Glory Kasahara, Kanako Kasatsu, Teddy Cat Hori, Hakari Ijuin, Dread Miyagi, Condor Ikigami, Sayaka Tsurumi, Falcon Kuzuki, Hikaru Ogawa, Yuko Hayashi, Yoshimi Takaji, Mimi Yashihara, Ryu Kikichu, Hotomi Fujishima. I'm so bad at this.
This is literally my favorite part of every Japanese game that we do.
Shinobu Ichigo, Suzumi Ishikawa, Hulk Hongo, Satan Shoka.
Oh, that's... What?
Panther Rizako, Kunoichi Master, Bunny Bomber, Dynamite Rin, Maria Mears, Great Berlin, Death Hunter A, Death Hunter B, Emery Mertel, Jesse Bird, Maria Lorden, M. Sande, Kyokyo Chalice, Eldrick, Radel Michelle, Lita Morena, Despina Libre, Sierra Gonzalez, Big Arcia, that's your name, Janu Rasik, Alice Sumeranho, sure, Natsursha Hang, Zabella Belbadi, Hannah Rocco, Win Mirror, Remy Dadarn, Dark Star Chaos, and
hey, look,
Judy Kadia.
Oh. That's literally my favorite. I think that's going to be the rule. Anytime we play some of Johnny Clash's cement games, that's the payoff. They bring him back down to earth, and he has to read the roster.
Yeah, that was a rough one. I need some order now.
All right, so you relax. I'm gonna talk about the graphics for a little bit here, and then you can jump in once you've calmed down.
Cooled off, okay.
So graphically, this is on par with what you would expect from the Famicom / SNES. I'm definitely getting some of the Final Fantasy style graphics from the games on those systems. So it's right in line with that. The ring looks nice. It's a nice perspective.
Look at that crowd. That is a nice crowd.
Crowd looks great, and I think I'm going to mention it every time we talk about the crowd, so this will probably be every game that there's a crowd. When the crowd looks like the people in the ring, it sets the bar pretty high in terms of aesthetic for the game. Enhances the immersion. So this does a good job at that. It's not everyone doesn't look the same. There's people with cameras, there's people without cameras, but like the ring itself is great. Depending on where you're fighting, the canvas changes. The people are on the apron in a tag match. The animations themselves are pretty damn good.
The moves look like moves.
Like there's a bridging German suplex in this game. It looks incredible. It looks like there's nothing that you're like, oh, it kind of looks like it was supposed to be this move. Like your person hits like a suplex. It looks like a suplex, and they look like they hurt. Like these are really nice looking wrestling moves. Love games from this time that have refs in the ring. Mm-hmm. Definitely enhances that experience. The HUD, I guess is what I'll call it, where you have your HP and your limb strength and your character. I get it. The game is supposed to be centered around these, manga anime style wrestlers, so there's like these big headshots of them and stuff like that, but like I could have been a little bit smaller.
It could have, yeah. It takes up a lot of the screen, but I will say this: those headshots do look like the character in the ring. So if you are like, oh, which one am I? It is very easy to tell. Like, okay, I'm the one on the right, you're the one on the left. They do look like their character.
That is very true. And there's right under the ring, there is this little ticker that scrolls along the bottom, and it tells you what's happening. It's almost like the play-by-play for the match. So that's like the voice of the commentary team for the match, and it's really cool. In one of the matches where
distracting.
When John was playing through the story mode, I had my translator up and was reading. So the text moves very fast, so at points it's hard to get the translator to work, but it's cool. It tells you, it gives you insight to what the characters in the ring are feeling, the devastation, how devastating the move was. It was interesting. It was fun to kind of have that aspect. I would imagine that this feature in some other American-based wrestling titles would have been utilized well. Maybe added some depth in games that otherwise didn't have it.
Yeah, we've seen it in some old WWF games.
It was different. Yeah, it's different.
Now, why don't we go through the actual artwork, the actual cover to this game, because now I want you to take me through this. It's your turn to cringe at it.
Take you through.
It's your turn to.
I just took you through the whole thing.
No.
So we're talking about the title screen, or are we talking about the cover?
We already talked about the title screen. Let's talk about the cover. You know
All
why?
right, so the cover,
because the cover, it seems like wherever this shot was taken, it was a little cold.
See, things that Johnny Clash notices that I don't notice. Yeah. You got a lovely little sunburst background. Got the Famicom logo, the text that is the name of the game. And then you've got this manga anime style woman on the cover, and
in all of her glory.
As Johnny just so graciously pointed out, it does appear that it is a little cold where this photo was taken. Understand, Japanese market, different market than what you would expect to see on covers in America and in other parts of the world. But I would be doing a disservice if I didn't mention the fact that this game does not read like a fighter or a wrestling game.
Not at all.
But I guess that's also not the point. This is a game for people who are familiar with this series and know what they're getting into. So I guess in that respect, they hit the mark. But for me, wanting to know that this is a wrestling game, my mentality is you're walking through a GameStop or electronics boutique, whatever.
Funkoland.
Whatever. Funkoland, whatever your trusted
Tri-County
gaming store is. You see this box on the shelf. Are you going to pick it up because of what the cover is? Do you even know what kind of game it is, judging by the cover? Those are things that I always like to kind of be a little bit hard on some of the designers
a little
for,
what?
just because.
That's gonna do it for us this week.
I see where you're going there. Yeah, but to me, that's always a thing that I'd like to see. You look at a game. Do you know what the kind of game it is just from the cover? Is this an enticing enough artwork for you to be like, I want to know what this game's about?
Yes.
All right. Well, John, I was going to ask you a question. Oh. Did you know? Did you know this game is the 10th game in the Wrestle Angels series and was the last game in the series before the Wrestle Angels Survivor reboot took place almost a decade later in 2006?
Did you know by the time of the game's release, Blizzard Yuki was a wrestler played by All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling athlete Saki Hasegawa? The character spawned her own 2-volume manga.
Did you know that this game is currently on eBay anywhere between $270 and $336 used? There are no new copies on eBay currently available.
Now, that was actually a comment we saw on YouTube from a few years back where someone did a playthrough, and one of the comments was this game is worth $600. So we could imagine that based on that person's info, wherever they saw that this game at one point maybe knew is worth like $600.
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money. Now, George, I know you were looking forward to those ratings and reviews like we mostly do, but this is 1996. All I could
wait. This is my relaxing time. I need my Zen music.
Sorry, but this week all I could find were some creepy reviews on Game FAQ, some creepy YouTube reviews. I choose not to read them here on this podcast because they are not official reviews. And
because you are creepy enough for this podcast.
I am creepy enough for this podcast, as George said, but we don't have the ratings and reviews, but we do have the most important rating, and that's our rating, because right now It's time to rate the games.
The game!
All right, John. I'm gonna do something we haven't done in a little bit here.
You know, before you say this, I thought you were going to do this last week, but I will graciously take it this week.
I bringing back a classic. We're going to do a little countdown, and then we're going to do our ratings at the same time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Bishoujo, Wrestler, Retsuden, Blizzard, Yuki, Rannyuu. 3, 2, 1. Future Endeavor.
You're fired!
Now, that does not mean that this game doesn't have redeeming qualities. There is something to be said for this wrestling sim, this manager style game. These are just not my style of games. Also, have never been a big fan of these anime manga style games. It's just not my market, I guess. The core itself, the gameplay, the animation looks great. I would have loved to actually like play this game, like be the wrestlers in the match and like actually be doing the moves, because like we said before, the moves in this game look awesome.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, if they put all this into making the moves look good, but like if you could actually use your controller to make those moves like work, like if you were controlling those moves, this game would be so much better. It might be a play forever.
Yeah, I would agree with you and say that that's a definite possibility. Obviously, controls are a factor in playing the game, but man, this game looked like it was going to be so great. You know, language barriers and all that aside, the game itself is pretty. Presentation is great. You know, once you get past that title screen, it's a completely different game.
Yeah,
I would even say that the box art too. The box art and the title screen do not set the stage for what this game is and how it looks. It's just missing that little. I just can't put my finger on it. Like I want to be able to play it. Like play it. Like not just be the manager.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. But that kind of takes us to our next section, which is Clash at the Feast. Now, George, unfortunately, between the translation barrier, between us not really knowing what we were doing, what we were choosing, we didn't play this game for a Clash at the Feast. We didn't have a game that means for the first week of March. We're going to continue throughout March and see if it's a tie. We'll do a tiebreaker, which brings us to, if you want to check out last week's Clash at the Feast, it was done in No Mercy on our pay-per-view event, King of the Ring. So head on over to youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast to check that out. But last week, for WWE WrestleFest, we also couldn't play that against each other on an iPod Touch. So we also settled that up in No Mercy. George Feast, your character, versus Johnny Clash, my character. It was a 2 out of 3 falls. You took the first one. I took the second one. The third one was probably the most disappointing game of No Mercy I've ever played in my life. We made it a first blood match. It maybe lasted 3 minutes before your guy just kind of punched me in the face and it was game over.
Just really good
I don't,
at video games.
I don't accept that, and if anyone else watched it, they won't accept it either.
Listen, here's the thing. When you're picking a move set for your character,
you give them all specials in the upper moves. Yeah, we get it.
You have to pick your moves strategically. You need a knockout move. You need a move that closes a gap. Then you need that move that has the chance to bust your opponent wide open. I don't think you chose your moves that well.
So your winner this week, who tied up February, George Feast.
Play my music.
All right. Enough of that. Enough. Did you know you were in a band? Tell me what we were playing next week on this podcast.
All right. So we've been, it's no secret here. You and I, big fans of the N64. We've played a lot of the N64 wrestling games, but we haven't played all of the N64 wrestling games. So, while we are in the spirit with GMP64, thought that maybe we go back and visit a Japanese wrestling game. Next week, we are playing Tokon Road Brave Spirits.
All right.
N64.
All right. I checked it out. It looks fun. I like it.
I saw Liger.
I'm
already in.
So why don't you take us home?
All right. That is going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks Podcast. Please check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store at prowrestlingtees.com/GameMarksPod. And be sure to go to GameMarksPod.com/shop. All of our merch is the best way besides listening to support the podcast, and make sure to follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. Leave us a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to wherever great podcasts can be found. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us. Wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, be safe. Troy, Nick, coming for you. We're going to kick your ass. FWF Live. John, say goodbye.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.